The reason that we've put this video together was just we felt from the North Central perspective that we needed to bring some awareness to the municipalities within our transportation planning area, but throughout the province, that we have some bridges out there that are going to need some tender love and care real quick, if not right now. And we just felt that if we could get some way to put together a video that would indicate to you, the municipal councillors, employees, administrators, the reeves, as to what you should be watching for. But we want to also remind you that this is not making you a qualified bridge inspector. This is just a quick and dirty video as to what you should be looking for. And if you notice anything that catches your eye that you think probably shouldn't be, then you want to get a hold of the bridge inspector. You want to have him come in and do a good inspection, give you the lowdown on what has to be done to that bridge, if anything. The other thing that we really felt was necessary was that people understand the importance of the bridges and the components of the bridges. I think we have a tendency as farmers to say, well, I wish that darn bridge rail wasn't there. I could run my swath or my combine through there. But every time that you take one part of that bridge either down, remove it, every time you do that, you're weakening a certain part of that bridge. Therefore, what is there as a bridge needs to stay as a bridge. I know some of us say, why is it there? It has to be there. That's part of the structure of it. And I think it's really important that we make our ratepayers aware of any time that they want to alter the structure of that bridge, they are probably weakening the capacity, lessening the capacity of that bridge. So it's really important that we, as councillors and as employees, let our ratepayers know the importance of these bridges. We really want you to, due to the shortage of bridge inspectors throughout the province, we really want you to be very conscious of your bridges, but at the same time we want you to be certain that you need that bridge inspector to come, because I don't think we need to have him running to look at a bridge that maybe isn't as bad as another bridge, and who knows how to determine that. But I think sometimes we have to use some good judgment on our own and utilize that bridge inspector the best way we can, because we know full well that we have a shortage of bridge inspectors, and we really ask you to really, when you need an inspection done, cooperate with them, make it as easy as you can for him, and get him on his way, because he's going to have a number of other ones to do. And the other thing that really is important, that as municipal leaders we need to really stress the importance of our bridges. And I think we have to be very conscious that these bridges are pretty much at the end of their lifespan in a number of places, and we want to be able to make sure that we don't allow them to go beyond that and become a hazard within the municipalities.
This chunk of bridge here is what's called a wing wall. This is the exterior wing pile, interior wing pile. There's supposed to be a rail attached to the cross, but the rail is quite low. This particular thing is attached to a 12-foot rod that's anchored back into the roadway to help hold this pile up. This is the end of the anchor rod. Here we have a cleat. The purpose of this cleat is to keep these wing planks from pushing out from behind the backy planks and allowing your roadway grade to fall off and into the river. Now, these are inspected. If you want to inspect them, you use a hammer, and you just listen to it. And that was all nice and solid. This one here, you can tell it's starting to rot at the top. Little non-destructive testing. You can see that this is rotten and all the junk falling out of it. And the ants. Now they're not too happy with me, but I don't really care. Because this is got a relatively short height and there's a lack of material on the back side, this pile can be quite a bit rotten before it becomes any kind of a problem. Then you check your wing planks to make sure they're not broken or rotten or distorted. And these are all good. This wing pile here, another interior wing pile, is just rotten and falling all apart. You can probably, it should be replaced. The bridge crew would just come in and drive another pile right beside it and you'd be back in business. And they would attach it to your existing anchorage system, which is down here. But there's no hurry because again, this is very little, retaining very little weight of soil behind it. It's short.
When they're fixing this, they would leave that pile in place to...
Yes, this pile would be left here and they would just put a new one beside it.
Okay.
These particular boards here, nailed from the interior wing plank to the exterior abutment pile, or interior wing pile to the exterior abutment pile, these are scour planks. Their purpose is to help guide the water through the bridge. Just make sure that they're there. And they're usually, if they're buried like this, they're fine. This is your typical timber abutment found on the vast majority of municipal bridges. These are the piles, pile cap, backing planks, constitute your, and knee braces constitute your abutment. The purpose of this cap here, it transfers the load from your timber stringers to your piles and distributes it so that the piles can support the bridge. The piles are inspected the same way as the wing piles. It was with your ever-friendly hammer. And while you're down here, you check the flooring. You look for broken flooring and cracked and broken stringers. This is an 8x16 timber stringer, typically for span 20 feet. And that's what this bridge is here. This bridge is a 20-foot span, and the next one is a 30-foot span, and then it's another 20-foot span. The knee brace is supported by a cleat bolted to the side of the stringers, and its purpose is to keep these piles from being pushed out from underneath your cap, and therefore the cap is no longer supported. As long as everything, as long as your cap is nice and straight and your piles are nice and vertical, you shouldn't have a big problem, and your backing planks are all horizontal, which would indicate that there's been no heaving at this site. There has been some erosion because you're starting to lose your spill through slope, but it's still up high enough on your backing plank to keep your road from falling out underneath it. If you got a half a mind to, you can put another knee brace out here to help hold this up. Next, you check your stringers. You can see this stringer over here has got a little bit of splintering on the bottom corner. That is minor. You check the stringer for cracking, excessive deflection, and at the same time you're checking for broken flooring. Of which there doesn't appear to be any. This is your standard timber pier bent. Consists of usually 5 piles. Again, a timber cap. These planks are sway bracing planks. They're used to provide some lateral stability to these piers, which can be of varying heights. And again, you're looking for the same thing as the cap is straight. If it's rotten, it's usually squashing and bulging out at the sides or cracked. But this one is in good shape. The piles are vertical. The sway bracing planks they're bolted and they're not broken. Again, this is a good pier bent. You check it the same way. You try and get as low down as possible because it tends to rot at the water level and at the tops. Ooh. One of the hazards of the job.
Yeah, we got it all.
Good. Which is why you should usually have another person along with you in case you do fall in and need to be rescued. They can laugh for a while and then go for help.
If I tried to pull Dave up, we'd both end up in the river.
Then you move on and check the other pier and the other abutment and the other wing walls. Just a repetition of what we've seen so far. Check the stringers again for cracks, holes in the flooring. But everything seems to be just fine. Like there's a piece of broken flooring up there.
Where that piece is hanging down?
Yeah, that's a small piece of broken flooring. And over in this bay over here, you can see where the flooring hasn't been spliced on top of a stringer like it should be, and you can see where there's a difference in the one end is lower than the other, and that's going to break up in a bit.
Yeah.
That can be easily repaired by, in the winters, come out here and put a board, several boards running between the stringers with cleats nailed to the sides, and they'll give it the additional support and keep it from breaking out on you and causing it to be having to be repaired. And there's just a minor flaw in that exterior stringer over there. It looks like it happened when they were unloading this stringer from the truck. It looks like it's a cable burn. But that's a minor flaw, not to be worried. You gotta look for broken and rotten and cracked, but if it's all nice and straight like this, you don't have a problem.
What are the dimensions of the stringers over this 30-foot span?
They are 10 inches wide by 20 inches deep by 30 inches long. 30 feet, yeah.
The water stains or the markings on the bottom of the far pile there seem to be very similar to the rotten external wing wall pile. But when you tapped it with the hammer, it sounded good and solid. So visual indicators aren't enough to use here. You should be out.
You should be.
With your trusty inspection tool.
Yeah. This isn't a water staining. This is creosote.
Okay.
That's the treatment. Like all these bridges are treated with creosote. And water staining, you can kind of see it on the other side, but this looks to be the usual, or the relatively, the water's at this level most of the time, and that's where the staining would be. At the, you know, only if it's lower. Higher, it would have to flow pretty steady for it to stain. Like this bridge is pretty high. You would see staining up on the abutments if it was high on a regular basis. Another thing you could check when you're looking at your caps is make sure your piles aren't crushing into them, which could be a symptom of that the caps are being overstressed due to loading. See, that's why there's those small blocks there, the difference in height in the stringers.
Okay, so that raises up the smaller 20-foot span.
That just keeps all the stringers at the same level, so there's no difference in your flooring's the same all the way across. Like this is a 2x4 laminated deck. Each piece is nailed into the previous one, and each piece is nailed into each stringer. And they take the load and they transfer the load transversely to the timber stringers, and the stringers translate the load longitudinally into the pier caps, and the pier caps distribute the load to the piles, and the piles to the ground, and the ground holds it up. And that's why if you get excessive scour, you lose your ground, you lose your pile, and then you lose your bridge. And I thought if you really feel brave, you can put on some chest waders and go wading in the river and look at from underneath. But if you got a nice view like we do here, it's no problem.
On that far bank, is that erosion cut in? Is that something to be concerned with?
Eventually it'll work its way back, but all you can really do is put rock on it to keep it from eroding on you, or slow it down anyway. That's probably been like that since it was built, or shortly thereafter, so it's not in any screaming hurry to do some work on.
How often should RMs be looking at their own bridges?
They should be looking at their bridges twice a year, once after the spring runoff, to check for scour. This bridge has some debris on the upstream side. They should keep that cleaned out so that the water can flow through without swirling and causing excessive erosion. And they should probably check it in the fall before freeze up to see if there was any damage over the summer. Usually like in the fall when the farmers are all hauling their B trains full of grain out, but the spring for sure.
Are there safety concerns or issues we should be looking at the sides or the
Well, like,
driving surfaces of?
as long as their driving surfaces are smooth across, you got your hazard markers. They should be up, but they're a perennial problem. And that's why this rail is probably low, because of the wider farm equipment that they have these days that are trying to get across these things. These bridges are all 24 feet wide, and the equipment these days are just so much bigger. So
You need to check the railing too.
we check the railing.
Oh, did we?
No, we do.
Oh, okay.
And we look for rotten posts and broken posts, and we get them repaired. Like, these are the hazard markers, and they supposed to be for them. Looks like those guys are fixing these ones. These ones I think bend over, but anyway. And then the bridge rail posts are supposed to be about up to here, and this is a wheel guard. And the municipality's liability is increased if somebody should go over this and they have an improper bridge rail. We check the bridge rail posts and the spacer blocks. You can see this spacer block here is all broke up. Mostly just check to see if they're there. But, you know, stuff like these trees should be pulled out so that when the floods come, that they can go through without, you know, the restriction caused by the debris. Well, they get out, they have a look, and if there's seeing they're looking at it twice every year, and they've got a good memory. If nothing looks much different, just 15-20 minutes looking around should do it. I mean, they don't have to pound on everything, they just have to look to see if anything's broken or out of alignment or excessive sagging or all kinds of fresh lumber showing. You know, if everything is straight and level and vertical, that's the way we put them in. And if anything's basically out of alignment, that's what they should really be looking for. And if they've got any doubts whatsoever, give me a call and we'll come out and have a look at it. You can see where it looks like it's a series of humps.
Right.
Okay.
This is due to the nature of the precast concrete stringers. They have camber in it due to the force of the pre-stressing, which holds the concrete together, and it forms those humps. And these bridges are usually paved to take that camber out, otherwise the trucks tend to bounce across it pretty good. This bridge is a tad different than the other one. Construction wise, we have here our 50-foot precast concrete box girders. They're pre-stressed, which means that when they were manufactured, they took a steel strand and they stretched it. They cast the concrete around it, and after the concrete set, they let the strand, they cut the strand loose, and it shrank and put a compressive force in the whole box, the whole precast unit. There's multiple strands in here, and it's just like picking up a bunch of books. You squeeze them together so you can carry them around. It works the same basic principle. These dark stains along the sides where water's been running down between the units, it's not a concern. There is no cracking. There is no rust staining. These structures are in really good shape. The pier construction is different. You'll notice that this is what we call a sheathed pier. Those horizontal planks are nailed to the sides of the piling, which is holding up this bridge. And the steel nosing is to protect the pier from ice. The straps are to help hold the cap down to the piles. This bridge is designed to be overtopped. It's called a low-level bridge, and every year or two it's completely underwater, so it's got the extra metal strapping on to help hold things down. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see there's 6 precast units, which each one's 4 feet wide, and so the bridge is 24 feet wide, which is the standard for all class 6 and 7 municipal roads. The class 5 and better would have an extra unit and be 28 feet wide.
So on these precast units, what would an RM be looking for when they came underneath like we are today?
They'd look for cracks,
okay,
rust staining. I thought we might find some rust staining like halfway down. There is a mid-span connector that attaches this unit to this unit to get some sort of transverse loading, and there's usually some rust staining down here, but there isn't on this span here, so that's good.
The gaps, I mean, I noticed that we can see light of day on that side, we can't see it here. Is that part of the construction process, or is that?
Well, there should be, the gap should be uniform across, but when the bridge was built, obviously they built it this way for whatever reason. Usually what they do is they start in the middle and work out both ways and put the units as tight as they can together, but they have to line up the exterior ones. And it might be that in order to get these to line up across, they had to put a little bigger gap than what they had wanted to. The exterior sides are just, the only reason they want them to line up is so that the bridge rail is nice and straight. Otherwise we could do whatever we wanted, but we like the bridge rail to be nice and straight. You can see up there where that chunk of debris is, that's where the water was. It washed it up there. Well, no, that's just because of the way this fit in this river valley.
Okay.
But the abutments are the same on a timber bridge as they are on a precast bridge. They're the same. The newer construction is different, but anything that's out there now as a rule is all built, with timber wing piles, timber abutment piles, timber caps, timber backing, timber wing planks. It's all timber.
Okay.
The very newest construction is using steel pipe piles with a precast concrete cap and timber backing, because the timber backing can be fixed relatively cheaply. But on the more important bridges, they'll use precast concrete panels. But that is more expensive than timber, and it takes longer to put up as well.
Okay.
The new design code requires that we build in a 75-year life, and in order to reduce future maintenance costs, we build the abutments with the steel pipe piles and the precast concrete cap, reinforced concrete cap, so that they'll last the full 75 years whereas you might have to change, you know, a rotten wing pile or some rotten backing planks over the 75 years, but that would cost the municipalities a minor amount of money, as opposed to, in order to change a timber pile underneath one of these bridges, you got to take these precast units off in order to drive a new pile.
Okay.
And you got to have a big crane, and that's just really expensive. So you got to rent a big crane from Sterling that runs, you know, $500 a day to pick these things off, and then we drive a new pile and put them all back in.
Okay.
So it's just, you spend a little money now, build a little better bridge, and then you got, you know, low maintenance costs over the lifetime until it comes time to replace it. If the municipality wanted to, they could tender the rehabilitation. Like if they wanted to replace these piers here, they would have to bring in a very large crane, because the crane that can pick up these units can't sit on a 24-foot wide bridge deck. It's got to be 32 feet for the outriggers. So they'd have to build and set them on off here, and then I don't know how they would pick off the ones over there, because they don't like to work off the ice. You know, like Sterling Crane won't put their crane on an ice, whereas our bridge crew guys will build the ice up a little bit, and then they'll put a crane on either end of that, and they'll pick those off. Just be careful when you're down. You can, like you saw me, slip and fall. You can slip and fall, like quite often there's riprap there, the rocks can give out. Just be careful and have somebody with you, so that if you do get into trouble, you can get help.
So, I guess just in conclusion, that we most certainly want to thank Dave Altwasser for putting this video together for us, and we want to thank Al and his crew for taking Dave out there. The other thing that we want you to do is, when you do feel that you have a problem, most certainly get a hold of Dave and have him come and have a look, or just even question Dave. He's pretty knowledgeable, and he can probably help you over the telephone even. So don't be afraid to contact your municipal bridge inspector, but at the same time, try and use his time wisely. And with that, I want to thank everybody for the job that they've done to put this video together, and we most certainly hope that it helps everyone be in the North Central, throughout the whole province. We want this to be something that people can use as a guideline.